Moving ahead, here you can see we have a layered wise arrangement, layered wise structure, and here you can see in this that we have some sort of fossils, found fossil deposition which could be in sedimentary rocks. Now I hope you can imagine the scenario, the scene which I described you, that suppose there is a mountain and there are some small organism living on that particular mountain slope. When there is a running water in form of erosion, it led to the removal and deposition. That's how fossils have been deposited, the small fine granules of rocks, or let's say igneous rock, I would. So that's how our contrastingly different feature from igneous. Moving ahead, if you see the structure, the more feature of sedimentary rocks. So sedimentary rocks are basically comprised of layered wise structure. You will see a perfect layered wise structure, whereas in the igneous rock you might have seen that there is a uniformity throughout the structure. Okay? But here there is no uniformity throughout the structure. You that we have a layers. That means what? Like this particular layer would have been formed over the different time period, and successive layers, you can see here, these successive layers would have been formed with respect to the time period. So here let's say we have a first layer, second layer, third layer, fourth, fifth layer, so on. So all of these layers are supposed to be found in this way, that there rock, there may be a erosion, there may be a weathering. As a result of this first layer have been deposited. On this first layer, after some time, let's say after some years, after some months, you can, because this action of erosion and weathering is continuously going on throughout day and night. The first layer, suppose, then we could have a deposition again. So we would have a second layer, then we could have a deposition in this way, so third layer, and so on. And when it is subjected to lithification, we would have a formation. That's how the layered wise arrangement. So the contrasting difference in terms of igneous rock and in terms of sedimentary rock is what? That here we have a layered wise structure, but in igneous rock we have a uniformity, homogeneous structure. And I told you, especially with respect to these sedimentary rocks, here we can found a trace of life. Yes, fossils are being found in these kind of rocks. Porosity, if we take a reference of porosity, pores, or let's say the permeability of water or permeability of liquid which can pass through these layers, or let's say these rocks. So here we take a consideration of igneous rock. So igneous rock is basically closely comprised, as it is, I mean the atoms and molecules are closely comprised and the pores are very less. Here in the sedimentary rocks, pores are having some sort of greater occurrence as compared to the igneous one. It's because of this layered wise arrangement. So porosity of these kind of rocks are actually comparatively high as that of igneous rock. So they often they are actually porous. Water can pass through these kind of rocks, and yes, they are also permeable. They also allowing water and oil storage as well. Through these, water and oil can be passed through. Porous, yes, you see sedimentary rocks, a large strata of sedimentary rocks in our earth crust will found oil and water reservoirs can found. Precious minerals in terms of oil, natural gas. They are soft and less compact. Igneous rock is more compact, igneous rock is more hard, whereas the sedimentary rock is soft, not that much hard, cannot sustain more weight as compared. Generally is softer than igneous, and even it is softer than the metamorphic rock we are about to see. Here you can see that we have an example of sedimentary rocks, and all of these rocks are basically the variable action of exogenetic forces as a result of this variability in rocks, those are actually comprised from the parent rock, or let's say primary rock, that is. So those rocks which we have studied in igneous rocks, we have a different types of igneous rocks as well. So as a result of weathering and erosion of those rocks, we could have a formation of these different set of sediments. Sedimentary rocks are also being classified as plastic, then we have a chemical, and then we have a organic. When it comes to clastic, so clastic sedimentary rocks have sandstone, we have a shale, then we have a conglomerate, and we have a breccia. These are the set of rocks that are basically being categorized, subcategorized as a class. Plastic sedimentary. Chemical sedimentary rocks are also there. We have a limestone and we have a rock salt. Is actually used fertilizers, which is our kitchen as well. Then in organic, we have a coal and chalk as well. So they are basically responsible. Coal is specific energy mineral. So all of these variability, here you can see on this, all of these variability is because of the variability in the igneous. Suppose we have a one igneous rock, and that igneous rock is rich in terms of calcium, and there is a erosion and there is a weathering of calcium. So what we can say, that we could have a loose material of calcium, and this loose material of calcium when it is packed with a layered wise arrangement, subject to compaction, subject to cementation, and ultimately when there is a lithification, we would have a formation of what? Sedimentary rock. Which kind of sedimentary rock? Limestone. Okay, so like there is just a transformation of the structural approach, whereas the chemical composition will be remain almost similar. However, we could have other impurities when it comes to the rocks. Fossil remains could also be. So there is just a structural transformation from hard to soft structure. Yes, here we have some more impurities when it comes to the sedimentary rocks. Impurities in terms of, you can say, calcium here for this. So we have this breccia, which is the example of sedimentary rock. Then fish, then we have a chalk, we have a chert, then we have coal, then we have you might have seen that we have some sort of big pebbles, smaller granules, and then you will see some sort of silica kind of content. So that is being collectively known as conglomerate. Then we have a diatomite, then limestone, then we have a sandstone, shale, then we have a dolomite, then we have a siltstone. Here you can see we have a rock salt, then we have gypsum, then we have ironstone, we have this coquina. So these are the example of sedimentary rocks which are actually on our earth. And yes, let me remind you again that all of these are actually comprised, all of these are made up of pre-existing igneous rocks. Characteristics, or I would say structural characteristics will be there. However, is there because we have a variability of weathering as well as erosion. And here in the sedimentary rocks, we could also have a occurrence of fossils, we could have a occurrence of other fossils as well. Okay, so we have this sedimentary. Moving ahead, igneous rocks which are there and the sedimentary rocks which are there formed. Suppose we have a granite. We have discussed about granite in igneous rock as that shiny rock which is appearing. When we have a granite, it is basically being known as felsic, or let's say intrusive volcanic rock. If granite is subjected to erosion and weathering, we would have a formation of what? Sandstone. Have a formation of sandstone. Means the properties which are there with the granite, similar properties could be there with the sandstone along with the other attributes, along with the other properties in terms of fossil, in terms of other minerals. Similarly, if there is a granite or rhyolite, or suppose there is an acidic one, so that would lead to formation of shale as a sedimentary rock. Suppose we have a gabbro, and as a result of gabbro, which is rich in terms of calcium and magnesium, there is a removal of calcium and magnesium, that would lead to the formation of limestone or dolomite. If it is more refined, then it will be limestone. If it is more, let's say, less refined in terms of its structure as compared to the limestone, then that would be a dolomite. And here you can see we have a pumice and scoria. They are also being responsible for volcanic, like they are also responsible for volcanic clastic sandstone if there is a erosion or if there is a weathering. So here the igneous rock is actually transformed of sedimentary rocks. More example in order to get a